The emergency lights cast red shadows across the underground command center. Commander Lee Min-jun stared at the screens, showing nothing but static where Earth's major cities used to be. 3 months had passed since the hegemony's attack, but the silence from above still felt like a fresh wound. "Sir, we're getting another transmission from Sector 7, Lieutenant Park Ji-hye said from her station. Her voice stayed steady, but Min-jun could see her hands shaking as she worked the controls. The screen flickered to life. A man with dirt-streaked face appeared, speaking in quick, nervous words. "This is Captain Kim from the Seoul bunker. We found 47 survivors in the subway tunnels. They're in bad shape, but they're alive." Min-jun nodded. "Good work. Get them to the medical station." He turned to another officer. "Log it. That brings our total to 12,000 in this sector. 12,000 people in what used to be a city of 10 million. The numbers felt impossible. But Min-jun had learned not to think about them too much. Thinking about the numbers made it hard to focus on keeping the survivors alive. The Australian underground complex had been built 50 years ago as part of something called Project Lazarus. Most people never knew it existed. The military told the public it was just a research facility. In reality, it was designed to keep humanity's command structure alive if the worst happened. The worst had definitely happened. The HFY Empire had given Earth one final warning 3 months ago. Surrender all colony worlds and accept client species status or face complete destruction. The World Council had voted to refuse. They knew other species had accepted similar deals and ended up as slaves. The HFY response was swift and brutal. In 6 hours, plasma bombardment from orbit turned every major city into glass and ash. 7 billion people died in a single day. The aliens called it a purification strike and announced to the galaxy that humanity was extinct. They were wrong. Min-jun walked through the complex's main corridor. The walls hummed with activity. Engineers worked on communication arrays. Medical teams treated radiation sickness. Children played quietly in corners, their voices the only bright sound in the facility. "Commander." Dr. Song Yun-woo approached him with a data pad. "The radiation levels are finally dropping on the surface. We should be able to send teams up for supply runs within a week." Any word from the other facilities?" Min-jun asked. "Mars colony is still operational. Admiral Park's fleet made it to the Kuiper Belt. The European complex is running low on food. But they're alive." "Doctor." Song paused. "Sir? The aliens think they won." Min-jun almost smiled. "Almost. Let them think that." The truth was more complex. The HFY had made a critical mistake. They targeted civilian populations and major cities, but most of Earth's military infrastructure was hidden underground or in space. The hidden bases, the scattered fleets, the research stations, they all survived. More importantly, humanity had been preparing for this moment for decades. Not openly, but quietly. Every military officer had trained in guerrilla warfare. Every base had backup power and hidden supply caches. Every ship captain knew how to disappear into the void and fight from the shadows. The aliens saw humans as just another aggressive species that needed to be crushed. They studied human history and saw the wars, the conquest, the empire building. They thought they understood how humans fought. They were wrong about that too. "Sir," encrypted message coming in, Park Ji-hye called out. "It's from Admiral Park Soo-jin." The main screen showed a woman in a military uniform. Her background, the stark metal of a ship's bridge. "Min-jun, good to see you made it. We're in position near Jupiter. The aliens sent a small occupation force to Earth. About 50,000 troops total. They're strip mining the Pacific region." Min-jun leaned forward. "What's our status across the system?" "Better than they think. Mars has 200,000 people. The asteroid mining stations have another 100,000. The outer colonies are intact." Admiral Park's expression hardened. "We lost 7 billion people in one day, but 2 billion survived. And every single survivor knows exactly who killed their families. The transmission continued. I'm sending you the new operational codes. Project Lazarus is now active. Phase 1 begins in 2 weeks. After the transmission ended, Min-jun called his senior staff together. 20 officers gathered around the conference table. Most of them had lost everything in the attack. All of them had the same look in their eyes, cold, patient anger. Ladies and gentlemen, Min-jun began. The aliens think humanity is finished. They've moved a small force to Earth to oversee resource extraction. They're not expecting resistance. Captain Cho Hyun-sik, the facility's senior tactical officer, spoke up. What are our orders? We watch, we learn, we prepare. Min-jun activated the wall display, showing orbital scans of the alien mining operations. They brought miners, not warriors. They're using basic security protocols. They think they're cleaning up after an extermination. Lieutenant Nam Ji-ho, barely 25 years old, raised her hand. Min-jun studied the faces around the table. These people had lost everything, but they hadn't broken. They were ready to follow him into hell if he asked. But revenge required patience. We start fighting when we're ready to win, he said. The Vrex High Empire has ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years. They have millions of ships, billions of soldiers. If we fight them like they expect us to fight, we lose. Dr. Song leaned forward. So how do we fight them? Min-jun smiled for the first time in months. It wasn't a pleasant smile. We fight them like humans. We be patient. We be smart. We use their assumptions against them. He stood up. The galaxy thinks humanity is dead. That's the best advantage we could ask for. The meeting continued for 2 hours. They discussed supply lines, communication protocols, and recruitment from the survivor populations. By the end, everyone understood their role in what was coming. As the officers filed out, Min-jun remained behind with Admiral Park's message still glowing on the screen. 7 billion dead. The number was too big to fully understand, but he could understand what came next. The aliens wanted to exterminate humanity. Instead, they had just made every surviving human into a soldier. They thought they had won a war. They had actually just started one. 6 months after the purification strike, the Vrex High mining operation on Earth ran like clockwork. Supervisor Kethvar watched the extraction reports with satisfaction. The dead human world was providing excellent materials for the Empire's war machine. Kethvar never bothered to learn much about the extinct species. Humans had been just another violent race that refused to submit. The galaxy was better off without them. His job was simple: extract resources and send them to the Imperial worlds. Captain Cho Hyun-sik floated in the cold vacuum 3 kilometers from the alien mining platform. His stealth suit made him invisible to their sensors. Through his helmet display, he watched the aliens go about their routine work. Phoenix Team, report, came the whisper-quiet voice of Commander Lee Min-jun through the encrypted channel. Target acquired, Cho replied softly. 24 aliens on the platform. No human life signs detected. Beginning approach. The mining platform hung in Earth's orbit like a metal spider, its arms reaching down to strip resources from the planet below. The aliens had built it quickly and cheaply. They weren't expecting trouble. Cho activated his suit's thrusters and drifted closer. The past 6 months had been spent in careful preparation. Every surviving human had a job. Some rebuilt civilization in the underground complexes. Others gathered intelligence. The military units like Cho's practiced a very different skill. They learned how to kill quietly. The aliens had excellent technology, but they had grown soft after centuries of easy conquest. Their security was designed to stop other advanced civilizations, not desperate humans fighting from the shadows. Cho reached the platform's maintenance hatch. His modified tools, reverse-engineered from captured alien equipment, opened it without triggering alarms. He slipped inside like a ghost. The platform's corridors were designed for the tall, reptilian HFY. Cho had to move carefully in the low gravity, but his smaller human frame was actually an advantage in the tight spaces. He'd studied the platform's layout for weeks, using long-range scans. In the control room, 3 HFY technicians monitored the mining operation. They spoke in their hissing language about quotas and efficiency reports. They had no idea death had just entered their workplace. Cho's weapon was a human innovation, a sonic disruptor that interfered with alien nervous systems while leaving their equipment intact. 3 quick pulses, and the technicians collapsed without making a sound. "Control room secured," he whispered into his comm. "Beginning Phase 2. What happened next would look like an accident. Cho had spent months learning HFY systems. He carefully altered the platform's power distribution, creating a cascade failure that would destroy the facility in exactly 14 minutes. The explosion would look like an overload in the main reactor. "Phoenix team, begin withdrawal." Minjun's voice came through the comm. "Timer is set." Cho made his way back to the maintenance hatch. As he prepared to leave, he placed a small device near the platform's communication array. When investigators came to study the accident, they would find that the distress signal had mysteriously failed to transmit. 14 minutes later, the mining platform disappeared in a flash of white light. The explosion was visible from the Australian underground complex, where Minjun and his staff watched through telescopes. "Phoenix team reports mission success," Lieutenant Park Ji-hye announced. "No casualties. Platform completely destroyed." Minjun nodded grimly. It was their 15th successful operation. Each time, the aliens found nothing but equipment failures and industrial accidents. The pattern was too subtle for them to notice. Yet, "Sir," Dr. Song Yunwoo approached with a datapad. "We've finished analyzing the alien technology from the Jakarta raid. Our engineers have made some interesting discoveries. The past 6 months had been busy in other ways too. While teams like Cho's struck at alien positions, scientist teams had been studying captured equipment. What they learned changed everything. The aliens aren't as advanced as we thought," Dr. Song explained. "Their technology is older than ours in many areas. They've been using the same basic designs for centuries." After the scene 1, "They've been using the same basic designs for centuries." "And?" Minjun asked. "We've been improving on their designs. Our power systems are now 30% more efficient. Our stealth technology is completely invisible to their sensors. And we've developed weapons they can't defend against." This was the secret humanity had been keeping. While the galaxy saw humans as a young, aggressive species, Earth scientists had been quietly advancing. The isolation that made other species distrust humans had also given humanity freedom to innovate. A new transmission came in from Admiral Park Soo-jin. Her image appeared on the main screen, but the background was different. Instead of a ship's bridge, she stood in what looked like a massive construction facility. "Minjun, I have good news. The Titan shipyards are complete." Minjun felt his heart rate increase. "All of them? 300 ships, cruisers, destroyers, and our new stealth frigates. The aliens have no idea we've been building them." Admiral Park smiled grimly. "Project Lazarus Phase 2 is ready to begin." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. For 6 months, they had been fighting a defensive war, striking at easy targets while building their strength. Now they were ready to take the fight to the enemy. "What about the other colonies?" Minjun asked. "Mars has been busy too. Dr. Kim Yunwoo's teams have developed something special. New weapons based on human neural patterns. The aliens won't be able to adapt to them quickly." After the transmission ended, Minjun called another staff meeting. The same 20 officers gathered, but they looked different now. 6 months of successful operations had given them confidence. They were no longer just survivors. They were soldiers in a war The enemy didn't know they were fighting. Ladies and gentlemen, the time for small raids is ending, Minjun began. The aliens think they're dealing with industrial accidents and equipment failures. They have no idea we're still alive and fighting back. Captain Cho Hyun-sik leaned forward. What's our next target? Minjun activated the wall display. It showed not just Earth, but the entire solar system. Red dots marked alien positions. Blue dots showed human forces. For the first time in months, there were more blue dots than red ones. All of them, Minjun said simply. The Vrexhai Empire is about to learn that killing 7 billion humans was the worst mistake they ever made. Lieutenant Nam Ji-ho raised her hand. Sir, what if they bring reinforcements? Minjun's smile was sharp as a blade. Then they'll learn why humanity never stays dead for long. The war was about to change. The aliens thought they had exterminated a troublesome species. Instead, they had created an enemy, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. An enemy that learned from every mistake. An enemy that turned weakness into strength. An enemy that never forgot and never forgave. The sleeping giant was finally ready to wake up. Admiral Zexthan of the Imperial Fourth Fleet stared at the casualty reports with growing alarm. In the past 3 months, 17 ships had vanished without sending distress signals. Supply convoys disappeared between star systems. Communications networks suffered mysterious failures. What do our intelligence services say? Zex then asked his aide. They believe we're facing an unknown enemy, sir. Someone with advanced stealth technology and detailed knowledge of our operations. Zexthan's scaled hands clenched into fists. The Fourth Fleet controlled a sector with 12 star systems. It should have been impossible for an enemy to operate there undetected. Yet the attacks continued with surgical precision. What he didn't know was that Colonel Jin Dahe was standing 3 meters away from him. Jin wore a perfect holographic disguise that made her look like a minor Keltheran diplomat. The aliens' own technology, improved by human engineering, created an illusion that fooled all their sensors. She had been aboard Zexthan's flagship for 2 weeks, gathering intelligence and planting listening devices. Perhaps we should request additional security from the capital, the aide suggested. No, Zexthan replied firmly. The High Command already questions our competence. We will solve this problem ourselves. Jin smiled inside her disguise. That was exactly what humanity was counting on. Pride would keep the aliens from working together effectively. She slipped out of the command center and made her way to the ship's communication array. Her mission tonight was simple. Plant a device that would let human forces monitor all Imperial communications in this sector. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, similar operations were taking place. Humans in alien disguises walked through Imperial facilities, completely invisible to their enemies. Captain Park Min-young posed as a Vrexhai merchant on the trade world of Kethmore. Lieutenant Song Min-ah had infiltrated the research station at Velox Prime. The aliens never suspected that humans could impersonate them so perfectly. They thought their species was too different, their technology too advanced. They were wrong on both counts. Dr. Kim Yeon-woo had spent years studying alien biology and psychology. Her teams created disguises that weren't just visual. They included scent generators, voice modulators, and behavioral programming that made humans think and act like other species. More importantly, humans proved to have an unusual talent for deception. While other species found it difficult to maintain false identities for long periods, humans could become almost anyone they needed to be. Jin completed her mission and returned to her quarters. Tomorrow, she would leave the ship during a routine supply stop and vanish into the crowd. The aliens would never know she had been there. Her work was part of a larger pattern that was driving the Imperial military toward paranoia. Ghost fleets that appeared and disappeared. Supply lines that collapsed for no apparent reason. Communication failures that seemed too convenient to be accidents. The psychological warfare was working perfectly. Imperial commanders started seeing threats everywhere. They began suspecting each other of sabotage. Morale dropped as soldiers realized they were fighting an enemy they couldn't see or understand. Lieutenant Nam Ji-ho monitored these developments from her post aboard the stealth frigate Silent Thunder. Her ship was one of 50 vessels conducting reconnaissance deep in Imperial territory. The aliens had no idea human warships were watching their every move. "We have movement at the Proxima station," her sensor operator reported. "Looks like they're pulling ships from border patrol duty." Nam smiled. The Imperial response was entirely predictable. When faced with invisible attacks, they pulled their forces back to defend core systems. This left the frontier worlds exposed and created the exact opening humanity needed. "Send the signal," she ordered. "Phase 3 is a go." The message went out through quantum channels to human forces across the galaxy. Liberation teams received their final orders. Weapons shipments were confirmed. The next stage of the war was about to begin. On Altair the 7th, Captain Lee Sung-ho met with representatives of the Zenth Rebellion. The aliens had been fighting Imperial occupation for decades, with limited success. Now they stared in amazement at crates full of advanced human weapons. "These energy rifles are 3 times more powerful than Imperial standard issue," Lee explained through a translator. "The armor-piercing rounds will go through Vrex-high battlesuits like paper." "Why do you help us?" asked clan leader Vorth, a massive alien with 4 arms and crystalline skin. "What do humans want in return?" Lee's answer was simple. "We want the Empire to fall. You want your freedom. We have the same enemy." Similar meetings were taking place on dozens of worlds. Species that had served the Empire for centuries suddenly found themselves offered advanced weapons, tactical support, and training from mysterious human advisors. The humans never asked for tribute or demanded control. They simply provided what each resistance group needed most: the tools to fight effectively. Captain Cho Hyun-sik led one of the training missions on the forest world of Kepler 442b. The local species, called the Miran, had been enslaved by the Empire for 300 years. They had forgotten how to fight. "The key is not to face their main forces directly," Cho explained to a group of Miran warriors. "Hit their supply convoys. Destroy their communication towers. Make them afraid to leave their bases." The Miran learned quickly. Within weeks, Imperial forces on their world found themselves under constant harassment. Roads became dangerous. Outposts went silent. The occupying army began to request reinforcements, but those reinforcements never came. The Empire was facing similar problems on dozens of worlds simultaneously. They didn't have enough troops to put down every rebellion. Back on Earth, Commander Lee Min-jun watched the reports with grim satisfaction. The plan was working better than they had hoped. The Empire was starting to collapse from within. "Sir, we're receiving a priority transmission," Lieutenant Park Ji-hae announced. "It's from Admiral Park's fleet." Scenes. The main screen showed Admiral Park Soo-jin standing on the bridge of her flagship. Behind her, Min-jun could see stars through the viewports, instead of the usual metal walls. "Min-jun, we're in position at the edge of the Vega system. The Imperial response fleet is moving exactly as predicted. They're pulling ships from across the sector to hunt for our main force." "Are you ready for the next phase?" Min-jun asked. "More than ready. The aliens think they're about to corner our fleet and end this war. Instead, they're walking into the biggest trap in human history." After the transmission ended, Min-jun stood alone in the command center for a long moment. In 18 months, they had gone from hiding in underground bunkers to orchestrating the collapse of a galactic empire. The aliens still didn't understand what they were fighting. They thought humans were just another aggressive species seeking conquest. They couldn't comprehend an enemy that fought not for territory or resources, but for something far more dangerous to tyrants. An enemy that fought for justice. The invisible war was almost over. Soon, The Empire would have no choice but to face humanity directly. And when that moment came, they would learn that killing 7 billion humans hadn't made humanity weaker. It had made them unstoppable. Emperor Vrexnash stood before the holographic display showing his crumbling empire. Red warning lights flashed across 47 star systems. Rebellion. Communication. Failures. Missing fleets. In 1 year, 1,000 years of imperial dominance was falling apart. How is this possible? The Emperor hissed to his war council. We exterminated the humans. They are extinct. General Kexmore, the Empire's top military commander, stepped forward with obvious reluctance. My Emperor, our intelligence services have confirmed the impossible. Humanity survived. They have been conducting a coordinated campaign against us for over a year. The Emperor's eyes blazed with fury. Impossible! We glassed their world. We killed 7 billion of them. Yes, my Emperor. But 2 billion survived in hidden facilities and off-world colonies. They have been growing stronger. The truth was more disturbing than even General Kexmore admitted. Human technology had not just caught up to imperial standards, it had surpassed them. Human tactics were unlike anything the Empire had faced, and human psychology seemed designed for this kind of warfare. The Empire had ruled through overwhelming force and the threat of total destruction. When a species rebelled, the response was swift and brutal. This had worked for centuries because most civilizations were rational. They understood that resistance meant extinction. Humans appeared to be completely irrational. Faced with extinction, they had become more dangerous, not less. Recall every ship, the Emperor commanded. Every vessel in the Imperial Navy. Find these humans and finish what we started. General Kexmore hesitated. My Emperor, if we pull all ships from the frontier worlds, the frontier worlds are already lost. The Emperor roared. 47 systems are in open rebellion. Our enemies have weapons we've never seen before. Advisors who appear and disappear like ghosts. This ends now. The order went out across the galaxy. Every Imperial warship received the same message. Abandon current positions and report to the Sol system for final assault on the human remnants. It was exactly what General Baek Sejun had been waiting for. Baek commanded the Liberation Fleet. 200 ships crewed by humans and volunteers from a dozen species. They had been hiding in the Kuiper Belt for months, watching as the Empire slowly realized the scope of the rebellion. General, we're detecting massive fleet movements. Captain Park Min-young reported from her sensor station. The Empire is pulling everything back toward Earth. Confirmed count? Baek asked. 3,000 ships so far. More coming in every hour. They're massing near Jupiter. Baek nodded grimly. The Empire still had overwhelming numerical superiority. In a straight fight, humanity would lose badly. But this was not going to be a straight fight. Signal all units. Phase 4 begins now. Across the galaxy, the real war began. As Imperial ships rushed toward Sol to crush the human survivors, liberation fleets appeared around every major Imperial world. But these weren't human fleets. They were composed of the species the Empire had oppressed for centuries. On Kepler 442b, the Miran resistance emerged from the forests with human-designed weapons and captured Imperial equipment. The occupying garrison, reduced to skeleton strength, fell within hours. On Altair VII, clan leader Vorth led his people in a coordinated assault on the planetary capital. Zenth warriors, armed with human energy weapons and guided by human tactical advisors, overwhelmed the Imperial defenses. On dozens of worlds, the pattern repeated. Species that had served the Empire for generations suddenly remembered what freedom looked like. The humans had given them more than weapons. They had given them hope. Captain Lee Sung-ho watched from orbit as the Proxima colony declared independence. The local Imperial governor was trying to flee the system, but Lee's ship intercepted his transport. Imperial vessel. This is Captain Lee of the Human Liberation Command. He broadcast. You are surrounded. Surrender, and you will be treated according to the laws of war. The governor's response was predictable. Humans! You dare threaten the Empire? We will glass every world you touch. You already tried that, Lee replied calmly. It didn't work out the way you planned. Meanwhile, near Jupiter, the massed Imperial fleet prepared for what they believed would be the final battle. 3,000 warships formed into attack formations, ready to burn every human facility in the solar system. Admiral Zex then, now commanding a battle group, studied the sensor readings with confusion. Where are they? Long-range scans show nothing but mining equipment and cargo haulers near Earth. His aide checked the data again. Perhaps they're hiding behind the moon? With what fleet? Intelligence reports suggested they had maybe 300 ships at most. What the aliens didn't understand was that they weren't looking at the human fleet. They were looking at decoys. Automated drones and converted cargo ships broadcasting false signatures. The real human fleet was waiting in the shadow of Saturn's rings, completely invisible to Imperial sensors. Admiral Park Soo-jin watched the Imperial fleet approach Earth with professional interest. 3,000 ships was an impressive force, but they were flying in predictable formations, using centuries-old tactics. All ships report ready, her communications officer announced. Very good. Remember, we're not here to destroy them. We're here to embarrass them. Park smiled coldly. Open channels to all Imperial vessels. Her image appeared on screens throughout the Imperial fleet. A human woman in a military uniform, speaking calmly from what was clearly a warship's bridge. Imperial forces, this is Admiral Park Soo-jin of Earth Defense Command. You have entered the Sol system with hostile intent. I am ordering you to withdraw immediately. I am ordering you. I am ordering you. The response from the Imperial commander was immediate and furious. Human vermin, you are surrounded and outnumbered 10 to 1. Surrender or we will complete your extermination. Park's expression didn't change. You misunderstand. You are not surrounding us. We are revealing ourselves to you. The space around Jupiter erupted into chaos. Human ships appeared from nowhere, emerging from stealth to surround the Imperial fleet. But instead of attacking, they simply sat there, weapons powered down. This is impossible. Admiral Zex then whispered, as he counted the human vessels. They have over 500 ships. Where did they come from? Park's voice continued across all channels. 18 months ago, you murdered 7 billion civilians. You thought this would break our spirit. Instead, it taught us something important about your empire. The Imperial fleet tried to maneuver, but found themselves boxed in by human vessels on all sides. They could fight, but it would be a massacre, and not in their favor. You rule through fear, Park continued. But you only understand one kind of strength. The strength to destroy. You've never faced the strength to protect. The strength to unite enemies against you. The strength to choose justice over revenge. The Emperor's voice cut across the communications. Enough talk. All ships, attack. But Admiral Park had one more card to play. Emperor Vrexnash. Before your ships open fire, I suggest you check your home world. The transmission ended, leaving the Imperial fleet facing a terrible choice. Fight a battle they couldn't win, or find out what the humans had done to their capital. The Imperial homeworld of Vrex High Prime erupted in chaos. In the capital city's main square, massive holographic displays showed images that most citizens had never seen before. Documentation of their empire's crimes. Across 1,000 years. Captain Song Min-ah stood on a rooftop overlooking the square, watching as crowds gathered around the displays. Her mission had taken 18 months to complete. Not an invasion or bombardment, but something far more devastating to an empire built on lies. The truth. Phoenix Base, "This is Song Min-ah," she whispered into her communicator. "The information broadcasts are active. Civilian response is significant." Below her, Vrex High citizens stared in horror at images of their military destroying entire civilizations. Species they had been told were dangerous rebels were shown as peaceful farmers and artists. Worlds that supposedly threatened imperial security were revealed to be kindergarten colonies with no weapons at all. The Empire had hidden these truths for centuries. Only the military elite knew the full scope of their genocidal expansion. Now, every citizen could see exactly what their government had done in their name. At the Imperial Palace, Emperor Vrex Nash watched his own people turning against him through security cameras. The crowds were growing larger and angrier by the hour. "How did humans get this information?" he demanded from his advisors. General Kexmore looked sick. "Sir, they've been infiltrating our archives for over a year. They have records of everything. Every conquered world, every exterminated species, every war crime committed in the Empire's name. Destroy the broadcast centers." "We tried, my Emperor. The humans placed the equipment in civilian areas. Any attack would kill thousands of our own people." The general paused. "Sir, the broadcasts are not just here. They're happening on every major imperial world simultaneously." The Emperor's worst fears were confirmed when reports came in from across his domain. On Kethmore, the trade hub, alien traders were sharing footage with disbelief. On Arcturus Station, the military academy, cadets were demanding to know why they had been lied to about their empire's history. The psychological warfare was perfect. Humans had not attacked the empire's military strength. They had attacked its moral foundation. An empire built on fear and deception could not survive in the light of truth. Meanwhile, in the Sol system, Admiral Park Sujin addressed the paralyzed Imperial fleet once more. "Emperor Vrex Nash, your home world is learning the truth about your empire. Your people are seeing the evidence of genocide, slavery, and conquest that built your civilization. They are not happy." The Emperor's voice came through the communication channel, filled with rage and desperation. "You think revealing old history will destroy us? We are the strongest military force in the galaxy." "Are you?" Park asked quietly. "Let me show you something." The space around Jupiter filled with new contacts. Not human ships, but vessels from across the galaxy. Miron warships with crystalline hulls. Zenth battlecruisers painted in clan colors. Keltheran scout ships. Dozens of species that had lived under Imperial rule for centuries. Fleet Admiral Vorth of the Liberated Worlds Alliance announced a powerful voice over the communication channels. "We stand with humanity." Captain Lee Sung-ho's ship emerged from the formation of Allied vessels. "Emperor, meet your former subjects. They have some things to discuss with you about freedom." The Imperial fleet found themselves surrounded not just by humans, but by representatives of every species they had oppressed. Many of these ships carried weapons that the Empire had never seen before. Technology shared by human engineers and improved by alien innovation. "This is impossible," Admiral Zex then whispered as he counted the Allied vessels. "There must be over 2,000 ships out there." "Actually, there are 3,417, Park corrected pleasantly. "We've been busy making friends while you were busy making enemies." Emperor Vrex Nash realized his situation was hopeless. His fleet was outnumbered and surrounded. His home world was in revolt. His empire was collapsing from within. "What do you want?" he asked finally. Admiral Park's response was not what anyone expected. "We want you to stand trial. You, your war council, and every officer who participated in genocide. We want justice for the species you've destroyed. And if we refuse, then you'll face the same fate you gave to others. Complete annihilation." Park's voice hardened. "But that's not what we choose." We're offering you something your empire never offered its victims: mercy. The next several hours tested humanity's commitment to justice over revenge. Some Imperial commanders chose to fight rather than surrender. These battles were brief and decisive. Human technology, combined with allied forces and superior tactics, made the outcome inevitable. But many Imperial officers chose to surrender when they realized they were offered genuine mercy. The humans were not seeking to exterminate their enemies. They wanted to break the cycle of violence that had dominated the galaxy for centuries. Emperor Vrex Nash himself faced the hardest choice. He could order his fleet to fight to the death, taking millions of lives in a final act of spite, or he could accept defeat and face trial for his crimes. In the end, he chose surrender. The trials that followed became the foundation of a new galactic civilization. Representatives from every species sat in judgment of the Empire's leaders. The evidence was overwhelming. The verdicts unanimous. Emperor Vrex Nash stood in chains before a tribunal composed of the species he had tried to exterminate. When asked if he had any final words, his question surprised everyone. "Why didn't you simply destroy our world in revenge? You had the power." Admiral Park stepped forward to answer. The woman who had orchestrated the Empire's downfall looked tired but determined. "Because we didn't survive extinction to become like you. We survived to make sure it never happens again. To anyone." The Emperor was sentenced to life imprisonment, along with his war council. But the real victory was not in the punishment of criminals. It was in the new alliance that formed from the ashes of the Empire. The Galactic Federation was born from humanity's greatest tragedy. 2 billion humans who had lost everything chose to build something better rather than seek revenge. They shared their technology freely, offered protection to vulnerable worlds, and created laws that would prevent another empire from committing genocide. Earth began rebuilding, but it would never be the same. The memorial gardens, where major cities once stood, reminded everyone of the cost of tyranny. 7 billion names were carved in black stone, each one representing a life cut short by imperial ambition. Commander Lee Min-jun, now promoted to admiral, stood before one of these memorials as ships from across the galaxy arrived for the Federation's founding ceremony. Representatives from dozens of worlds came to honor the dead and pledge to protect the living. "Do you think we did the right thing?" asked Admiral Park, joining him at the memorial wall. Min-jun touched one of the names carved in stone: his daughter, killed in the orbital bombardment. "We could have burned the galaxy. We could have made them all pay in blood. But we didn't. No, we chose to build something better." He looked up at the stars, where ships from 100 worlds flew in peaceful formation. Maybe that's what makes us human. Not that we survived, but that we chose to let others survive too. The ceremony that day established humanity as the galaxy's peacekeepers. Never again would one species be allowed to dominate others. Never again would genocide be ignored by the civilized worlds. Operation Annihilation had succeeded completely. Not by destroying the Empire, but by annihilating the idea that might made right. In a galaxy that had known only conquest and submission, humanity had offered a third option: hope